Stanton wanted to start a band and call it Cheese Gargle.
It was from one of those Eugene conversations. It started out about Cherry Poppin' Daddies and finished about a band called Vomit Launch. They should change their name, she said, because they might offend some bulimics. This, of course, started us on a conversation about what would offend most bulimics, but we were drawing a blank until Stan suddenly said, "Cheese Gargle," and almost collapsed giggling. I let him talk me into playing the bass. He said it was easy. He said it was a great way to meet girls. He said he'd been to a show where he'd seen the bass player get his knees licked through the holes in his jeans. I didn't exactly see the appeal of that, but on the other hand, the knees are not usually the first place my jeans get holes. We found a drummer with a little bit more experience than I had as a bass player, and we were good to go. Now the thing about punk, and I like punk, is that it does not require technical expertise so much as it requires passion, and the songs are short. Which was perfect for Stan, because he was only ever interested in writing the hook. And that should have been a warning to the girls he met. Because when you think about it, sex is the hook in a relationship. It's repetitive and it's fun, but the real work gets done in the verses. He didn't think he was just in it for the sex. He seemed to really like the girls until they slept together, and then he'd say, "She's changed." It was obvious to everyone but him, and it shouldn't have been a surprise to us when he lost interest in the band in the same way. After a half dozen shows to the same dozen people, he stopped showing up for practice, and that was the end of Cheese Gargle. The drummer went full-time at 7-Eleven, and I went to Europe. I never got licked through the holes in my jeans, but I did meet some crazy sad girls and had sex with them. You can tell yourself that you're not lying, but you can lie without opening your mouth, and in the morning they always seemed a little sadder and a little crazier. I went to Europe because I had literary pretensions, and a high school guidance counselor who told me I was just a rube, but if I went to Europe I'd be an expert. In London, I hooked up with an ex-girlfriend and we hitchhiked the continent together. In Stuttgart, I found a battered guitar by the side of the road and told her about Cheese Gargle. After that, while we waited for rides, she tried to teach me how to sing and I tried to teach her chords. And a couple of times we did the Bobby McGee thing. When we got back to the States, we rescued the drummer from 7-Eleven, found a guitarist who called himself Arms Akimbo, and we formed a blues band called Harry and Smelly. Now, I'm not going to explain that to you, but it's not what you think. Louise fronted the band. She had great pipes. It was good for the band, but it was bad for the boys because she got more attention from the women in the audience than all the rest of us combined. And since she was straight, it was kind of frustrating for everyone. Stan, meantime, reinvented himself as an artist. He was cutting pictures out of the paper of Tiananmen Square, enlarging them way up, colorizing them and adding Chinese characters. He had a show in a coffee shop. It was a fairly elaborate way to impress a particular girl, but as far as I know, he never got anywhere with her. When we got tired of not explaining Harry and Smelly, we changed our name to Black Voices, which is not what you think. It was from a pickup after one of our first shows. The guy was misquoting T.S. Eliot, "Black voices wake us and we drown," and attributing it to Herman Melville. The girl tried to correct him a couple of times, but he wouldn't listen. So after that, she just tried to get him to quote longer passages. The results were hilarious, but we were drunk too, and the next morning, all we could remember was Black Voices.